Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Whitney Day, talking horses on an absolutely gorgeous day here in Saratoga. Sarah Albadwi and Andy Serling, and these are the kind of days that you just remember forever. The racing is great, the weather's great, and it's going to be a spectacular day.
The card is fantastic. This is one of those cards that every race I was excited to dive into, especially the stakes action that'll be coming up later, but even all of the undercard races as well. Just a fantastic group of races that
I
we have put
agree, and some
together.
potentially good two-year-olds as we move forward, particularly that sixth race, which has the look of one of those races for the two-year-old fillies. We got a lot to talk about, so we're going to get rolling right away. Head over to NYRA Bets. You're not a member of NYRA Bets. Use the promo code SPA200, and we will match up to $200 of your initial deposit. Bankroll Builder, 50 to win on the Whitney and or the four-star Dave. So two opportunities to get a $20 towards your bankroll in the Travers. Bet 50 to win. Win, lose, or draw. You'll get $20 towards your Travers bankroll. Opt in at NYRA Bets for that. We have a cross-country Big Five. Couple at Monmouth, 3 at Saratoga. 3 stakes here. All of them grade ones, culminating with the Whitney Stakes race number 11. Sarah Live. Ready for this? 12 to 2 on FS1, 2 to 3 on FS2. Fox from 3 to 6. That's Big Fox and FS2 to close it out 6 to 7. All 13 races will be covered. We started out with race 1, and it's a question of 2 with experience versus a lot of first-time starters from good barns. I've gone a little bit nuts here. We'll see what happens. But we should start with a conversation about the 2 Tajer Mean, the $1.4 million debut horse that ran okay first time, but I was a little disappointed.
Yeah, I just think that experience first time out, going into a race like this is so valuable. And I understand wanting to take the look of somebody new, especially in a field like this, opening on Whitney Day. You want to see those 2-year-olds really show up and be pointing for a spot like this. But I thought that this one maybe just needed that race and comes in off of what was a respectable figure for a first start and seems to be working well since that effort.
Yeah, I don't agree that it was a respectable figure. I can't believe that somebody's not going to run 15 points higher. Now, it may be him. And he got bumped a little out of the gate, and he didn't have the best of trips, and he ran into a Marcassi horse that ran like a buzzsaw. So I kind of get it. And the other Marcassi horse will show finishing second in the Tremont, a horse that's been in stakes in 2 straight races as a maiden. And listen, this horse can absolutely win. And if he runs back to the kind of figure that he got in here, he's probably going to win this race. My problem is 3 chances, and I know he lost to Obliteration, and maybe I'm kind of overdoing it, but I just want more firsters. And if I'm going to take a horse with experience, I'm going to expect that Tajer Man's going to improve. This one, to me, I don't know, 3 races. I'm just wondering if he's going to start tailing off a little bit.
We've seen it a couple of times now, unlike the number 2, Tajer Mean, where with this horse, he was obliterated by Obliteration in that race. And I think Obliteration is very good, but at the same time, you're looking at the possibility that someone in here might be as well. And I just don't want to take a very short price on a horse who's had a couple of opportunities versus what could be the unknown.
So I sandwiched the Chad Brown horses, both of whom Chad thinks have ability. Whether or not they're good enough to win here remains to be seen. And I ended up picking the 7 Legal Gambit on top, simply because I thought of the 2, this one rated to be the bigger price. And if I'm going to go a little nuts in here and try to beat the horse that ran, and I'm probably making a mistake, I'll take them. But I don't think we should ignore either the entry or the 6 grittiness. 2 of the 3 of them are Todd Pletcher horses, and Todd's 2-year-olds have been running really well, and you've been riding that train and riding it successfully.
And I feel like I can't wait for it to come to a crashing halt, and hopefully it does not, because
everything in racing eventually comes to a crashing halt.
This is true, but
even bad streaks.
You really put the train on the tracks for us a couple weeks
yes,
ago.
I did.
With,
yes, I did.
Your mention of him not having that success in the first
doubt.
week, but things have
I'm
really
proud
changed.
of the role that I apparently played in him being the leading trainer.
And extremely pivotal.
It
And
was.
that day, it was just instantaneous.
Hey, if I had something to do with it, it would be a miracle, but it would also
Todd
be
says
good
thank
for
you.
him.
It
We'll
was.
see what
He's
happens.
doing extremely well.
Firsters in this race.
Overall.
Right. We'll go to race number 2 on the turf, and this has the look of a pretty good race. You have left my top 2 choices out of your top 4. Talk about Sunrise. And, Johnny, when you get a chance, can you bring me a water? But wait till a replay. I'll give you the hint. Go ahead. Sorry.
Looking at this one from the rail, this horse was one of the 2-year-olds for Todd Pletcher that we were just kind of talking about, of course, routing on the turf this time, and has that dam side precocity that I look for with these 2-year-olds making their debuts. Just this one being a half to Spenderella.
Actually, a full to Spenderella.
Full, thank you. A Spanish Queen as well. Spanish Love Affair, some very talented types. And I just thought that this was one that had the looks of being ready to go first time out, especially with the pedigree. And I think that Todd Pletcher's numbers doing so with this type of move, they're not that bad. They're not
Yeah, they
excellent, but
are.
they're not that bad.
Yeah, they are.
You think so?
Yeah. If Todd
Okay.
Pletcher, I know he won with a turf router, but his numbers overall with 2-year-old turfers and turf routes here especially, they just haven't been very good. And it's understandable. And I was thinking of that card talk where Todd's going to win with a good turf horse. He just gets
Diana.
less of them. And you're right. This horse has a sensational pedigree, and to ignore it would be ridiculous because she is clearly, I mean, I think he has the best pedigree of anybody. There's a half to 4 turf winners out of 5 to try it, and they were runners. So there is a lot of pedigree. I do not disagree. I think the 4 and 5 are both runners. I don't think Prodigious is necessarily the best one in the barn, but I think he's up there, and that barn has been very tough to stop. I mean, Miguel is having an unbelievably great meet, and Capital Partners supposed to be a runner as well. It seems like the Kingman Klarovich horses over the years have been very good, so they're the 2 that I'm going to go in here, but I obviously don't disregard your horse either. You have Orbit second, and I know you're not the only one that likes this horse.
And of course, there needs to be some significant move up on the turf after that very low buyer speed figure for that debut race, where we did see a horse out of Lady Eli take that victory with a slower number. And I think that this
He better
one,
be a turf. He better be a turf horse, the Lady Eli horse, because he ain't a dirt horse.
he's definitely not a dirt horse. But looking at this one, I thought that Orbit could be a turf horse here, getting to stretch out a little bit more in distance as well, and just having that experience not running poorly in that first start where he was up close to the pace and just kind of stayed a little bit one pace, but maybe just didn't handle that surface as well as he will handle this one today.
We should probably mention Signatory Man as well in this race because he does have the turf experience, even though sprinting. I didn't love his first race. I know he had some trouble in that race, but this is a big, big jump to run in this race against the big guys.
And isn't he going to be based on being a horse that has some experience going out for quality connections in here? And I think that he's one that obviously he just did not handle the dirt last time out. But even in that turf sprint race, I don't know. I know he was a little bit further back and did sort of get himself in more into contention through the context of that race. And there's only so much you can do with 5 furlongs. But I just wanted to see a little bit more.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with him. Race number 2. Race number 3, the Terrago Special. And it's scratched down to 4, but you've got 2 massive heavyweights. 2 horses broke their mate. One broke the maiden, one won a stake on the same day. And we'll start with Obliteration, who gets the better of the posts. And, I mean, as we see this race, and Johnny, can bring me that water, please. Thank you very much. He's good. He's very good.
He is. And look, maybe if somebody's trying to go in a different direction here or get creative, Ewing, of course, is the most obvious choice. But with him being the outside speed in this race and also showing first time out that he didn't need to have the out and out lead clearly at every single step of the way, and while he took it over very soon thereafter, I just thought that he was won by the open lengths margins, the high buyer speed figures for both, the slight improvement from first start to second start, getting another half a furlong to work with and going into that stakes conditioning. I just did not see the case to go against with
Well,
this one.
I mean, Ewing's good. We'll show Ewing's first race. And, you know, I don't want to be overly dismissive of him. He's just got 1 race. Literation has 2. And, I mean, he absolutely destroyed this field. I agree with you that Obliteration is the likelier winner. I wonder if the crowd's just going to go berserk for him, and Ewing might end up being a better price than he should be. I didn't pick Ewing. I'm with you. I agree. But I don't want to completely dismiss this guy because this was a very, very, very good debut.
And this is one of the 2-year-olds that the word was out for this one coming into his
Paying
first race.
$270. You figured that
Yeah,
one
I
out?
think so. This one just really impressing in the mornings and really grabbing a lot of attention and also living up to it in the afternoon with a fast race, seemingly effortless margin of victory in there. And I'm excited to see if we get a real matchup between these 2 because
agree.
I think they both could be major players in some quality races next year.
Yeah, and whether or not their horses want to go farther or not, they're going 6.5 today. And this may be a small field, but this is a titanic matchup of maybe the 2 fastest 2-year-old colts we've seen so far. These horses are good. Race number 4. I thought race number 4 was a fun race, and I do want to start off by showing the race when Atari finished second, when the race kind of fell apart for them, and Run Curtis Run ran third. And I know that you had liked Run Curtis Run last time out, and he actually ran well in the Ashley T. Colt, considering there was no pace in there. And he did have, I didn't show it, but he had significant trouble in the back of the pack, and he probably ran the best race, and I think he's probably very, very dangerous, and I think he's the horse to beat.
He He's just one that we've talked about it before. He is a horse that's been a little bit unlucky at times. He's a horse that tends to be extremely consistent and run his race. The problem is that he just doesn't really win all that often. And while I think last time it was a paceless race and I was hoping that he would get the kind of trip that Senbei did, he didn't get out of the gate all that quickly and it was over from there.
You're lucky you weren't on Talking Horses with me when you suggested you were hoping he would be in front, because Senbei was always going to be in front in that race. But we'll just disagree on that one.
I
But
thought he would be more forward than last.
well, it was only
early
3.5
on.
lengths behind
I
it,
know,
but it
but
was
it
a
was a
very slow
compact
pace.
field.
He has no speed.
Right.
I mean, you can't give speed
He
to
did it
horses
one
with no.
time.
He has no speed at this point in his career. He's not fast anymore. Regardless, I think he's the horse to beat in this race. You're going to try to beat him with this horse, and we'll take a look at Clear the Air, winning 2 races back at Churchill. He's a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde. He can run on both surfaces, but when he's good, he's good.
And I think that the race last time out, I can clearly make some excuses for a horse that was trying to take it to a Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint winner in, I'm going to say no balls because that's how his name is pronounced to me. But looking at Clear the Air in here, I thought that he would be forwardly placed. I thought that he was one that when he's not facing that kind of company, he's extremely competitive. He's going to be facing quality horses today, but not quite a no balls. So
I agree. I agree with all of that, and I've got him second, so obviously I don't disagree with you. My top pick here is the 3, not the 2 guys. I don't know how that became the 2, but I have the race 3, 4, 5, 10, please. I wish my friend Mike Lehrman all the luck in the world with XY Speed, but I don't like him here, but a lot of smart friends of mine do. 3, 4, 5, thank you very much. I just didn't think he ran very well last time. I know he was chasing no balls. No balls hasn't been in the world's greatest form, even though he ran well there, and I didn't think he ran well. Having said that, Will Walden Ships here, his horses seem to run well, so I agree with you. I think he's super dangerous. I don't love Bonus Move in this race, but what I think about Bonus Move is he is going to be the best price of the 3 horses I wanted to use, the 3, 4, and 5. So I'm always going to default in those situations. He did not get the best of trips. Johnny got very unlucky with him last time. He was in a good spot. And it's hard because he's more of a speed horse, but I don't think Johnny wants to get involved with Clear the Air in this race, so he probably ends up trying to sit third, similar to how he did last time out. Even XY Speed has a lot of speed, but the reality is that he could have been very close in there. And that was a race that was kind of falling apart, and I still thought he ran pretty well. So while I don't think he's the likeliest winner, I think he's the best gamble if he's around his 12-1 odds, which I don't see any reason he's not going to be.
I hear you. I think that he had some difficulties in that last race where he was cutting back in distance. His races before that on the turf, he was running against some decent horses in Sherlock's Jewel, who really came to life for Shug McGahee. And I think that he's one that he's shown he can sort of handle it all, whether he's on the dirt, he's on the turf, he's going long, going short. And I think that you will get every bit of that 12-1.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to have to run his best race ever in all likelihood to win. I don't like the entry in here because Twisted Filigree is ridiculously dressed up. Somehow that race just became a merry-go-round affair in there, and nobody had a chance to close.
Isn't there going to be other speed, too?
There's other speed and better horses. I just
Yeah.
think it's a better field. And Antares, I don't want Antares because I think Run Curtis Run ran so much better than he did when finishing behind him
I
2
agree.
back. And you've got an entry that's 3-1 on the line, going to take a lot of money. And I think this is way, way tougher a race than that. Now, I'm going to wonder if Run Curtis Run is 5-1 in here. I personally think he should be favored, but entries do end up favored in these races.
And
I
look,
think 5-1 Run Curtis Run is a tremendous price.
I think it's completely fair, and I think it would be sort of in line with what we've seen from him over his past several starts.
Yeah, and you're right. He does have trouble getting the winner's circle, so maybe that'll come into play as well. Race number 5 features the eventual debut of a $2.3 million horse in Met Farda. We'll get to that horse in a minute. Oh, I was looking at the numbers, and I saw 1A, and I was getting
You seemed
confused.
lost.
You and I have both picked the same horse in this race in Delightful Claire.
Just looking at what seems to be a quality field in here, I wanted somebody with that experience that also got bet first time out, and I thought that she was the one to kind of do the dirty work in that race and ended up holding on for third in that first spot where she was forwardly placed. She ended up fading a little bit in the later stages, going the 6 furlongs, but I just think that what Phil Bauer has been able to do here with pretty much all the runners that he brings, they're always worth paying attention to, and I thought that this one would not be too short of a price to take in a spot like this relative to the kind of favoritism that she showed last time.
Yeah, I thought she ran well. She didn't break as sharply as the winner of that race. She had to rush up to chase that horse and never really gave up at the end. And as you say with Phil, his horses have run so well here, so I went to her in a tough race. Lost and Found is going to, I assume, be the favorite in this race. And I think we need to talk about this horse. It's hard to judge a horse that's never been on a harrowed track and has been on, I'm going to say, sloppy tracks the whole race. I know that the chart caller in Kentucky likes to make things up and sort of
What does wet
confuse.
fast really mean?
It means the chart caller's being cute in Kentucky, and I think it's a disgrace. They did it in the Derby again this year, and they shouldn't be doing these things, regardless. Maybe it was a rain. It didn't rain, and maybe it hadn't rained yet, for all I know. I don't know. I know it rained on Derby Day. I think this horse is pretty good, and Will Walden's horse come to run. You're way against this horse, huh? Or you
I
just
don't-
ran out of spots for horses?
I don't like that. And look, I could have easily used
Okay.
more horses in here. This is a very competitive group on paper. But I think that this one, I don't like when a horse has the lead and gives it up in the late stages and has those 2 seconds back to back. And also just having that time in between her first start and her second start. And while she did show some progressive improvement, it wasn't a ton of that improvement that we usually see from 2 to 3 in terms of.
Really? It was 14 points in 6 months. I'm going to disagree with that.
Okay. Well, I think it's just one start to the second start. more
That's
so.
fine, but at least she's putting race back. My picks here are 7-2-1-4, by the way. 7-2-1-4. I sent in those changes. Met Farda. Met Farda is an interesting horse in here for all that money. And I was talking to David Aragon about this, and he said up until her last work, she really hadn't shown much, but she badly outworked Endorse in her last start. And I know Endorse lost the rider, and you can just count that race. The problem with Endorse is this horse was supposed to win first time out. And I'm not
Absolutely.
saying she ran badly, but she sure didn't run the way she was supposed to. And I'm going to take the one Met Farda of the 2 Pletcher horses in here.
And that's completely fair, but at least to her credit, Ragtime is going to be in the test and is a real contender in that race later on.
Yeah, and the horse that finished second there came back and lost as heavy favorite in her next start. I think that My Sharona, who I almost picked on top, is extremely dangerous as we show her race the Busanda. Now, speed was very, very good this day, so in a lot of ways it was helped her being forward as she chased around the Wesley Ward horse. But I like the cutback for her, and this is a horse, talking about natural improvement, was running figures in the mid to high 70s back in January, and with natural improvement can easily run in the 80s, and I think she is super dangerous for Ray Handel.
And she has the early speed as well, and I think that Ray did the right thing by putting her in the Busanda because she ends up picking up some of that black type in here and running fairly well as a maiden, and I like that move for her where she did take that little bit of a step forward. And I also, like you, like the slight cutback in distance for a horse who has that stamina built in, even with some time away. Just that experience of going 1 mile and 1/8 and still running well, I think is extremely valuable in here.
I couldn't agree more. I think she's super dangerous for our man, Ray Handel. Race number 6, and if this race doesn't turn out to produce a spin-away starter, I'll be very, very surprised. Now, whether or not they're going to be as good as Todd's monster filly that won last week is another question. And I'm going to start by showing the workout for the number 4, Ornelia, I believe is how you pronounce this horse, a Gervin. 1.1 million for a Gervin. And she worked 10 1/5 at Timonium, which is an extraordinarily fast workout. And this filly looks extremely fast. She better be fast to win this race because this one appears to be absolutely loaded.
Yeah, I mean, there is so much going on within this field, and I think that she is, of course, going to be one of your major contenders in here. And when you have the ability to watch those works and see what's coming into this race as well as the purchase price spent, I think that that's always going to have an impact on your price in a spot like this. And look, she's probably going to be every bit of that 7-2 in here, but I think that you're not going to see, unless the word is out on somebody, a super
Well, the wor-
overwhelming favorite.
Right. The word is out on a lot of horses in this race, so it's hard to see anybody being an extreme favorite because apparently, at least in the mornings, there are a lot of runners in here, starting with the horse on the rail, Cadenza, who apparently has been working very well. I think she's very dangerous for Brad and for Stone Street. I think Steer Clear is extremely dangerous. I don't like to pit entries. You've got the 1A second. I think the 1 is probably the more likely runner. I'd always love to take Al Stall at any spot, but I can't take him when he's an entry with another Todd Pletcher horse in their 3-1 morning line.
And the half to Prince of Monaco, that one. So I think that's going to attract some attention as well. And
Wait a second. Ornelia.
Ornelia.
Yes. Nobody is more qualified than my friend Kirk Wyckoff to point out it's the very best Italian wine. I guess the
Okay.
MIG, but Mig and Kirk can fight that one out. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's important. We want to get these names right.
I don't really care.
Well, I do. But Solemn Vow, the half Prince of Monaco, of course, that very talented horse for Bob Baffert, who ran so well to finish second in the Woody Stevens here, and just had that precocity, being able to win first time out, then go on to take the best pal with a triple-digit buyer speed figure. And the other sibling, Riverside, not quite the same as Prince of Monaco, but
Right.
not bad either.
But the problem is, and you know, you pick the horse on top because the horse are part of an entry. They're just bad values.
Which
so
is why I didn't
these
pick
are
the horse on
never
top.
good plays. And you know, listen, yesterday I liked the wrong half of the entry that won the 9th race, but couldn't pick it because it was even money because it was carried along by an entry mate. Another missed opportunity because in 2025, for some reason, we still need to have entries. I hear the 3 can run. This horse
Oh,
has
yeah.
nothing but B plus workouts.
Colloquial half?
I mean, what's that?
Half to colloquial?
I know, half
Yeah,
colloquial, and clearly has been working well. Apparently, Immaculate Moon is working extremely well
works,
also.
yes.
And not just they're fast in paper, they're fast and good workouts. But you've gone to Germantown.
I think that with all the flashiness of some of these pedigrees and the works coming in and the connections, we might see this other Todd Pletcher in a way that's not attached to the entry be one that gets a little bit more lost
12 to 1
in the
morning line.
wagering. And so that attracted me to this one and looking into what didn't seem like an overwhelming pedigree, at least in the immediate Dam Side family. But I liked the purchase price for this one. Clearly, somebody liked something that they saw with this one by Liam's Map. And we just know that Todd has been doing so well with his 2-year-olds that at the slightly better price and not part of the entry, I wanted to take a shot with this one.
You're going to get paid if you're right, but man, this is a tough race to be taking one that's a little bit off the beaten path. We'll see what happens in race number 6, a race that looks like it could have real implications on the rest of the year as far as the 2-year-old filly division is concerned. Race number 7 is an absolute barn burner. We lost a few players. Jefferson Street. I thought 24 Mambo is actually dangerous in this race. They're not going to play, but we've still got 12 in here, and we're going to start with Creditworthy, who you and I both have second. And listen, you don't know, did this horse improve because it was the dirt? Did this horse improve because of wet track? And listen, the going gets a lot tougher in this race. There's no doubt about it. But this horse had been working extremely well in the dirt before this race, and he absolutely destroyed this field. And there's a chance that he's just been running on the wrong surface all along.
We watch so many races, you and I, and just you've maybe more than me over the years
Well,
or
I'm,
so.
I'm about 436
You're a little
years
bit
old,
ahead,
so.
but this was a wow kind of performance for me to see that kind of turn of foot that he was able to display on the dirt. And look, you're totally right. It might have just been a function of the wet track that day. It may be the competition that he was facing. This is a much tougher
steeper
group
field.
of proven dirt horses. This is a stakes quality type of matchup with some of these, in my opinion. But looking at the kind of effort that he put in last time out, the only thing that I could say that I didn't really like about this horse was that I didn't want to bet him in this spot. But he could absolutely win.
No, I think that's extremely fair. You've picked Speakeasy, and I brought this horse's replay up from last year, and I will tell you, if this horse wins this race, I will lose, and I will tip my hat to you.
Okay.
I want absolutely no part of this horse whatsoever.
I hear you. At least this is one of the horses in this field that has one of the fastest races. It is on the go back quite some time. But I also thought that last time out, he was just never really going to be involved in a race where the pace was honest, but it did hold together at Keeneland. And those are some decent horses in Discreet Mischief as well as Deer District. And I think that he was just really taken out of his game in that spot. I know that he's leaving the Todd Pletcher barn. He's coming in here for Gustavo Delgado, and Christopher Elliott will be aboard. But I think that that last race was a bit of an aberrant, slower race than we're going to get from him today, and that we have gotten from him in the past. I think he was up against it a bit.
I think that's all fair. And I'm not going to argue with you that looking at his PPs, he's a player in this race. There's no, it would be foolish to argue that because you're right. And I think everything you said is actually absolutely correct, and he's going to be a price, and that's fine. Having said that, this was a horse. Imagine how much money they could have gotten for this horse after his debut. He beat Victory Avenue at the time, was the talk of the town, and he came back of life, was working badly, and he still ran a big race. And so Winstar et al. Dumped him, and they got $200,000 for them. It just feels to me like his next start's going to be for 62.5. And listen, like I said, I tip my hat to you. If this horse wins this race, he is not one I want in this race. I think there's too much going on. But listen, if he's a price, you may be right. You may be onto something with him.
But clearly something went wrong in that H. Allen Jerkins, and if he was coming off of that effort and then the last race, I would have zero interest whatsoever. But he was basically eased out of there, and I like at least that he ran a decent race at Gulfstream. Two back behind a horse
He
who's
did.
decent in
He
Caramel
did.
Chip.
He did. No, I'm not arguing any of it. I just don't want this horse on any
I hear you.
intangible whatsoever in here. I think Savvy Joseph holds a very strong hand in this race between Hold My Bourbon and Dilger, both horses that can win. And with Hold My Bourbon, I'm going to get a better price than Dilger, and he's cutting back in distance. You know I'm a sucker for cutbacks. Savvy Joseph, 28%. 28%? Yeah, 28%, 213 ROI with turnbacks with 240 starters. So his turnbacks really run, and you go back, this horse is so dirtied up by turf and synthetic, and you go back and you look at the November 28th race. You look at those races, this horse is capable of running good numbers. I thought ran well last time out, is cutting back, gets good position inside. I think is going to be a bit forward in this race. We'll see how fast they're moving with Barksdale in here, and Barksdale does get back on Lasix, and he is a weird
Barksdale's
horse
the key to
and a
this
dry
race
track.
in a way.
He is, because the good Barksdale would win, but man, it's been a long time, and I also worry about him breaking because he has gotten left. And if he gets left, the one's going to be in a good spot. You don't like my one at all, but I think he's a little bit interesting.
He is, because if you isolate those dirt races, as you alluded to, he has the last three races on this surface as ones that could be competitive in here, and you are going to get a fair price with him. So I don't blame you with that at all. I just wanted somebody that has at least shown they can come from a little bit more off the pace, because I thought that with Barksdale in here, as well as a couple of others, we were going to see some honest paces if everybody does what they're supposed to do.
In theory. In theory.
The idea.
I mean, I agree with
the
you.
ideology might be.
David, you've got pentathlon for, and David Aragon had liked pentathlon last time. I hate last time was the time horses, but he made a valid point to me saying he's going to be a big price again today.
At the same point in
And
time.
he was close enough to that pace that fell apart that he did run very well. The question was, is it last time the time, and did he move forward in a sloppy track? There was a time when he showed a lot of potential. My problem is he's so rarely run well enough, and he's still got to improve that figure, I think.
And I'm not in love with horses for courses, but I think with him, you've seen him run well here a couple of times specifically where he's shown up with some of his bigger performances, and that just might be a function of who he was facing and
reasonably
time
fair.
of year and how he was coming into the race. It could have nothing to do with it, but I think that he is one that has shown clearly he appreciates the Saratoga surface in here, and he should get some pace in theory to close.
I think that's more than fair. 4 Grade 1s, races 8 through 11. We'll take a quick break, catch our breath, and Sarah will be back with the big ones on today's big card.
You bet with Naira Bets. Bet any track, anywhere, anytime. Download the Naira Bets app to play today and get a $200 deposit bonus. Watch live horse racing. Get expert picks. Boost your bankroll with weekly promotions and hone your handicapping skills with exclusive tips and tutorials. Download the Naira Bets app now. Sign up now to claim your $200 deposit match bonus. You bet with Naira Bets.
Welcome back to Talking Horses. Sarah Albadwi and Andy Serling on an absolutely glorious Whitney day. Let's get into the Grade 1s. The FanDuel 4-Star Dave coming up as race number 8. And I'll tell you, this race, this is as fun a race, I think, especially in this race. And I think, while we do have a big dog in Johannes, I think they did us a favor selling Carl Spackler, because with Carl Spackler sadly going overseas, and I got to tell you, it pains me to see him running. He was so bad in the Sussex. He should never have been taken away from here. But nonetheless, by him being taken away, we've got a much bigger field I think we'd have if he was in here.
I agree.
So we'll start with the big guy in Johannes. And you and I did the same thing here. We put him second. Here's his Breeders' Cup Mile. I think Jonathan's point is a valid one when he says that the California turf horses often don't class up when they come east. I'm a big fan of this horse. I think this horse is absolutely terrific, and I hope he runs well today. But he's finding himself in a salty spot, coming off a layoff and a bit of an injury. I think he's going to run well. I think he's really good. But this is a spot where I just kind of wanted to put him second and pick somebody else.
And I hear you on that completely, and that's what I ended up doing as well. And Tim Yakteen will have this horse coming here off of that layoff, where he has had this horse come in and win big off of a layoff before, but it is an ambitious spot to go into, and especially with the shipping. And I know they have ambitions towards the Breeders' Cup at the end of the year. So
I think the
it
point is that
makes
Tim
sense.
wanted to stay in 1 mile grade ones. That's why he came here.
Okay, well, that makes sense as well. And looking at what he did in that Breeders' Cup mile, I don't think the class argument is as valid given that race.
I agree with you. No, I agree.
Without
and yeah,
that
I guess
race,
the
I
argument,
understand.
the argument on the other side is he was in his home court in Del Mar.
Sure.
I'm not going to really give that much credence. I think your point. I agree with your point more than Jonathan. I think Jonathan's point is generally right in this
Generally,
particular
yes, and if you
case.
take out that race, I agree.
This is a good horse, and I think it would be snotty East Coast bias to be dismissing him. And I'm not saying Jonathan's doing that at all. I think his points are valid, but I think you got to be careful with doing that. And I understand there's a lot of West Coast paranoia about that, and we don't have an East Coast bias. But I think to be overly dismissive of this horse is a little bit of an East Coast type thing, and I don't want to do that, and I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I hear you on that. And I think that, look, when you look at the coast-to-coast situation, it's also horse by horse, right?
Absolutely.
You know, and of course.
100%. I think as a general rule, we don't see those horses come back. But as you say, in the Breeders' Cup, he showed what he can run when he runs his best race. We're going to show the Kelso, and you and I made different decisions in this race, which is perfectly valid. I don't want the horses from the Kelso, and for a number of reasons I'll get into, but you do like Neat in here, who does not draw well on the outside.
He does not, and he's becoming a little bit of a pet that I'm chasing, and this is probably not the last time, but we're getting close to the end of the line with him. A horse that, when Donegal Momentum did steady sharply out of the race and ended up being okay, thankfully, he was just starting his run from the back of the pack. A horse who absolutely does not need to be last by any means. He saved ground through the majority of that race, so I know that he was able to at least have that in his favor, but he had all of his momentum completely stopped and had to go way out wide to the middle of the turf course. And I thought that he still ran well.
And then he got back to the inside, though.
I thought that he still ended up running well to finish just beaten ahead for third by a horse who had been more forward and had been running kind of in place that whole race.
Well, see, I disagree with that because I think Win for the Money is the horse you're talking about. Win for the Money was 3 wide the whole way against the Gold Rail, chasing the pace, and the pace was falling apart. So I don't think he ran that well. I think it's a bit of an illusion because the trouble, and my other problem with it is, tell me what race Neat can possibly win this race out of besides his last race.
The race that he won here last year?
No. If he runs that
No.
race, he'll finish 7th
Beating
or 8th.
Deterministic?
Deterministic was a different horse then,
Sure.
and Neat got as perfect a trip as you could get. And my problem with Neat is, listen, he's a huge
I would argue
price.
his trip in the Transylvania was a little bit more perfect, but it's close.
It was close, so you can tell Rajiv Mirage that because he's confused. Right. The problem with that is the horse that finished second by a nose in there ran about 5 lengths better with
That
him.
day he did.
And
I
he
agree.
has the rail today, and he has post 10. He's 100 to 1. I wish you the best of luck. You're not the only person that likes him. My problem with that race is as follows. I think Big ran well. He was never on the rail, but he did get a very good setup. And what happened in that race was because everybody was so conscious, correctly so, with the Gold Rail and the way Speed was doing, that Intellect was misridden,
game.
but not Flavian's fault.
No.
Flavian rode him correctly. It just ended up being the. I imagine after the race, Flavian thought to himself, "I should have just sat back and let him run his race, and I might have won." Now,
But
who
then if
knows?
you do that,
No, everything.
sure.
It's all second. I'm not saying
Yeah,
he gave
I
the
hear
right
you.
ride for the track and the wrong ride for the race.
Absolutely.
And I think Intellect ran the best race in there because while he was on the rail, he got off it. He made the first move, and I think Win for Money ran very well. My problem is I just don't like any of them. I think they all ran okay in there, and listen, Think Big may come back and win, and he is 6 to 1 on the line, but it's a tougher field, and I just feel like last time was the time. Jonathan liked him, David liked
He got
him,
right over
I
the
hated him,
rail.
and I'm going to let him beat me again. I didn't get right to the rail, to be fair. He was
when
in the
he
2
got there in
path.
the last stages,
Yeah,
not
but
in the beginning of the race.
But even late, he was in the 2 path. I don't think he was ever right on the rail if you
Okay.
watch it, and I don't want to discredit him. Listen. You got to make decisions in this race, Sarah, and my decision is to throw a blanket over the Kelso. You could end up being right and make a big score
No,
here.
but you do have to make a choice.
Yeah,
right?
you have to make choices in this race. Now, Deterministic. Believe me, I would love to see Deterministic win this race. I have friends that are in the ownership group on this horse. I think he's a great story. And listen, I yelled at Christophe Clement for a long time telling him to send this horse to the lead. And that's the acid test today, right? Has he gotten better because he's gone to the lead, or has he gotten better as a 4-year-old? And listen, there's an argument he's gotten better as a 4-year-old because he's not likely to get the lead unless my boy Prince forgets to come out of the gate in here. So maybe that's a good thing for him. Maybe they can find out if he's good enough to win a race like this rating. And I don't want to take anything away from him. His last 2 races have been dynamite.
They have, and I think that he was one that sort of always showed that he would really prefer to be given that comfortable spot, being forwardly placed and not taken out of things early on. And I don't think that he's going to be in front here either. They've been very clear with My Boy Prince stretching out, and even if they hadn't been, it was very clear that he was going to be a horse that was going to go to the lead in this spot. But I think with Deterministic, he doesn't have to be far back. He doesn't have to be in amongst traffic.
I think he'll be
he's
sitting
going
second.
to be right up there.
Yeah.
And he might not need the lead to run a race just like the one that we saw last time in that Manhattan.
Absolutely. No, and I listen, I'm rooting for him, to be honest with you. I really am. I mean, I really want to see him run well. I think he's a super cool horse. Spirit of St. Louis, you've left him out. I've got him third. We'll show him winning the Turf Classic at Churchill. I think it's a valid question, even though he's won 3 races a mile, if against the very best horses, is he really a miler? And you know, there was a lot of talk about him having trouble last time in the Manhattan. And the more I watched the race, Sarah, I didn't think his trouble was enough for him to run as badly as he did. And I wonder, he's had a pretty long, extensive campaign. You know, he missed 2 months after running in October and running throughout the year. And now he's been running a lot. And I just wonder right now, this is a make or break race for him as far as a mile. I agree with him running. Listen, he wins this race. Isn't he the leader of the division? With 3 Grade 1 wins this year?
Yeah. I think that's a perfectly valid argument because we haven't seen somebody really come over and take a hold.
Yeah, I mean, with 3 Grade 1s, he would be, so he belongs in the race, and
Sure.
6 to 1's fine. Okay, Cugino. I'm married to Cugino, betting him in here. And if you're at home or wherever you are and you're watching, you're thinking, Andy, he is just not good enough to win this race, you're probably right. But I'm not sure of that because I think that he was the unluckiest horse of all of his generation on the turf last year. He just got ridiculous trips. He got slow paces in Florida, 12 posts and 100 wide, an hour the best in the Transylvania. I know we agree on that. Then then in the American turf, he didn't really run that badly. He just got kind of run out of the race early with another lousy post. Then he got to strut his stuff, and he ran a big figure as 91, one of the better races 3-year-olds ran last year. Okay, the Nashville Derby, my own 5/16 at that ridiculous place. Didn't get up against Deterministic, but last time out, he had a perfect trip, and I understand. As much as I like to make fun of Big Everest, he had no excuse to lose that race. But he gets the rail again today. He's second off a layoff for one of the all-time great trainers. I believed last year he was better than he looks. I think he's a horse that could have an 8 to 10 point Bayern move forward. You know he's going to likely to get a good trip in here. Of everybody in the race, he's the likeliest with Irad on the inside, and I've got to play him today. I've got to put my money where my mouth is. I've always believed he belonged in a race like this.
He was one of those horses that you would follow race after race and just keep being enticed to come back because something would happen that he would really outrun the circumstances of that race that would invite you in for the next time. And he's always a pretty fair price except for that last race.
And he's run good races. He's run good winning races. It's not like he hasn't ever run those races.
Of course. My concern with him a little bit, and I agree with all of that you said about last year. I agree with the improvement this year. How forward is he going to be even though he does show at the rail?
I don't agree with the pace projector. I know the pace projector has him last.
I don't think he's going to be last, but
I'm going to put it this way. In Irad, I will trust.
Okay.
I mean, I agree. I think that's a perfectly valid question. I thought about the same thing. I'm just going with him. And you know what? When I'm wrong, it's like, okay, he's not good enough to beat these horses, but he's supposed to be in this race because sometimes horses are supposed to be in races to find out if they're just not good enough to win them. And then you move on to the races where he's facing lesser company.
You take a chance.
I want to find out if today he belongs. This is a great race. I think, Sarah, you and I could talk about it for 10 more minutes.
Absolutely.
Race number 9, the Saratoga Derby Invitational. And I'm going to show Hot as Hell winning in the Bog last year, the last win in the Group 1 William Hill Futurity, and beating Delacroix, who easily beat him last time. And if you don't know, Delacroix came back and won impressively in the King George, one of the biggest races run in the world last time out. This guy has been facing, company that's just in a different galaxy. And I know Jessica Harrington has shipped 4 horses over here, and they have not run well. They've been 8.3 to 1 to 25 to 1. This guy's going to be around 2 to 1. I was talking to David about the line, and on today's line for David, and I don't like to make excuses for people, but he had to have this line in on Monday morning, and the card came out at like 7:30 or 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
So he's going to make more mistakes today than he normally would. And he said to me this morning, if I had it do over again, I'd have made Hot as Hell 2-1 and test score 5-2. I just think that Hot as Hell is in a different league than these horses. And if he shows up today, and I have no reason to believe he won't, he's not going to lose.
My only small question, which may not matter at all, versus the company he's going to be facing in here.
That's why they're questions. They often don't matter at all.
Well, true. Looking at the distance for this horse, I know that that was 1 1/4 last time. This is the 1 3/16. It's a different configuration with the right-handed there, different course type of firmness as well. But does he really want to go further than 7 furlongs to a mile?
Yes.
You think so?
I think Europeans that run well at a mile usually get a mile and an eighth around here.
Okay.
I think he ran a race last time. I don't think there's a horse in this race that even if they were trained in Europe would have been 3 lengths behind Delacroix. So, and
That's fair.
Ombudsman, who's really damn good as
Ombudsman
well.
is good.
Right, really, really good. So I hear you. That's fine. Let's
It might
go
not
to
matter.
the Belmont Derby and Test Score, who really is one of my favorite horses, and I hope that I'm wrong and he wins for Graham today while Graham is in Nantucket. You're going to have to explain to me how World Beater's going to win today. I'm looking
I thought
forward
that this
to it.
horse ran very well with the wider trip to come up just short to a horse in Test Score who got to be forwardly placed. We both had interest in this one last time. You could see him really starting to kick into gear here and close in on pace setters that are getting tired. And I thought with just the odds discrepancy and the wider trip for World Beater, it wasn't that much of a difference coming into a spot like this where, yes, Test Score was off a little bit of a break last time out. And World Beater had put up a consistent resume so far where I like that he's showing he can be a little bit closer each progressive race, and he draws towards the outside in here where I think the horse right to his inside might be one that tries to be go.
He's a big price. I wish you the best of luck. I think there's a lot. The gap of mile length and a quarter is much bigger than you do, but he's a big price, and I wish you luck with him. I think Tiberius Thunder is very dangerous near, and I almost picked him on top in here. I just didn't decide to be that big a wise guy. Sometimes I like the less heralded Europeans, and I've even got Joelier, the horse from Germany, in there fourth because I think it's Test Score and it's a bunch of horses from Europe. His last race, the horse who finished second in there is okay. The winner, Trinity College, I think it was Trinity College that came back and finished second in a Group 1 in a subsequent start. That was the Hampton Court at Ascot. That's a pretty strong race. And when I look at this horse, he's making progressive improvements in his race. And I like that when Euros come over here. They're a little less heralded. And it's not like Hot as Hell is coming here seeking softer competition. This horse is coming here as an improving horse coming into the race. And I think Tiberius Thunder, and this is another one I talked to David, I said to him when he made the line, I said, you really think this is 15-1? And he came back and said, you know, I probably should have made him around 8-1 in here. I think if he's an 8 to 10-1 range, I think Tiberius Thunder is going to run very well today.
I think the presence of horses that did really pique interest on the Triple Crown Trail in here is going to get you a better price on some of the horses that maybe you wouldn't have had those horses not been names that are sort of more known, like Final Gambit running well to finish fourth.
He's
in
not
the-
impossible today
Sure,
to run better.
but he's a known commodity, and I don't want him at 6-1 versus a horse coming overseas who's faced much better turf horses overall.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to be shocked if I'm wrong about Final Gambit. I think he'll run better today. I'm just taking a position that it's Test Score and the Euros. We'll see what happens in the Saratoga Derby Invitational, which is, I believe, a winner you're in for the Cox Plate. Is that right?
I don't
And
know, but I'll believe you.
Before you laugh too much at home, the winner of this race a few years ago won the Cox Plate, so don't laugh. The Test. If the Test was one race among 9 other indiscriminate races, we would really be building it up because this is just, I mean, this is as deep a running of the Test as I think we've seen in years. You know, last year it was a showcase for Ways and Means, beating Emery. This year, there's a lot of good horses, but even though we both picked the horse second, I don't think you'll disagree. If Echo Sound runs her race that she ran last time as we take a look at the Jersey Girl, she's going to win this race. This was
Sensational.
a devastatingly good performance.
She's one that just really took that huge step forward from her Beyer speed figures in that last effort, earning that 101. But she was one that she'd faced some decent horses over the course of her sprinting career so far. And I thought that her comeback race, even though it wasn't a number quite like this one,
She ran
it
very
was
well.
still very good for
Yeah.
her to finish first in there. She's only been defeated once. I think that she is not going to be overwhelmingly so short a price, but she's the clear class of this field so far.
And correct me if I'm wrong, though you probably won't, but Rusty, I apologize if I am. Rusty won this race with Victory Gallop. And he's got 2 horses. We'll talk about his other horse in a minute, a horse that you like. She made Beauty Reigns look like an average horse last time. Beauty Reigns is actually pretty good. Let's talk about Look Forward, who I picked. You've left out. That's fine. I don't know that I'm getting 8-1 to Look Forward. I think this is one Dave would go back and change. A lot of people like this horse. I love the turn back for her. It worked last time out when she won the 8 Bells, and I think her 8 Bells is a lot better than that 87 buyer suggests. And I think if the favorite loses, Look Forward is the one that I want to try to beat her with. You obviously disagree, which is fine.
I think she was up against it when she finished still a good second in that race behind Lacara, and not her preferable distance either, because once Lacara got comfortable on the front end, nobody was going
But you
by.
could also argue that she was a little helped by the track, too.
Sure.
Right? Because, you know,
Sure.
I think the
She
one who was
kept
taking more out
position.
of her game was Scottish Lassie.
Yeah, we
she's
saw
a
what she came back
right,
to do.
she's a forward horse. She's a forward horse, Look Forward, whereas Scottish Lassie was sort of brought in the race more and probably more compromised. But I
Also
like the turn
valid.
back. And, you know, I was talking... David was saying, well, her last 2 races, the big figures in sloppy and sealed tracks, which is fair. My problem with that is, by the way, it was not a wet fast track in the 8 Bells. Once again, it was a sloppy track. She was running 80 and 82 buyers in her first 2 races, and one of them was going long. So it's not as though she has no credentials.
Sure.
I just think she's starting to find herself, and I don't think she'll be 8-1, but I think she could be 5 or 6-1 here.
I think you're going to get a fair price because she's a horse coming in here that isn't coming in off of sort of the typical route to the test, where we see horses that, while this did work for some in recent years, we more so see the clear sprinting types.
We
coming
have to
in.
move. We got to
Okay.
move. Sorry,
Yeah.
I don't mean to cut you off,
All
but
right,
I
we
just
can
realized.
keep moving. I'll go to
we don't-
Kilwin really quick.
Go to
I know
Kilwin,
that
yeah.
race looks like a complete aberration last time out, but you were
Well,
mentioning...
wait a second. It's not an average. It was her first dirt race.
I-
So
relative
right,
to the rest
right.
of the field and what they had done before, it looks like an outlier number. But you just mentioned the race that was won by Look Forward. Well, Evanescence was in that race as well. And if you think that that number is one that was a little bit light, then maybe you can start making the case for maybe this is a horse that just found a surface that she actually prefers now. And coming into this spot against what looks like the better of her stablemates, I thought it was a little bit interesting that she wasn't here, because perhaps this is one that belongs in a spot like this.
I think those are very valid thoughts. If she's 6-1, I'd book her. If she's 12-1, I would bet her. I think that you've got to get a better price, because the problem becomes when you look up the PPs of vodka with a twist.
They're not good.
You need a vodka. You need a double
I need
vodka with
several.
a few twists
Yep.
in there to bet her in this race at 6-1.
Yeah.
That's my concern. But I get why you picked her, and I think you could make a dumber pick. I look at the morning
could
line.
definitely make a dumber pick.
Well, I'm sure we'll both make dumber picks. Like I probably already got 5 of them already. Ragtime.
She's
I think
good.
Ragtime is a horse that you've got to take a stand on. You either like or you're against. I'm against her. I want to see it against the big girls. But there's a chance that she just improved from her first start to her second start, and she takes another step forward for one of the best trainers in the history of the game. If you want to like her in here, if you, the proverbial you, go ahead. At least you're going to get a square price. I wonder, though, if she's going to take a lot of money in here.
I don't know that you're going to get a very square price
Right.
on her, because she's the one she's coming in with 2 for 2, progressive improvement for hot connections. She draws well towards the inside, where she's shown that even in her first race, she could sort of overcome a bias on that track as well. I think that she's one that could be an interesting player moving forwards, but at the price she was likely to be in this race, I wanted to go elsewhere.
You and I are on the absolute same page. Let's look at Cash Call quickly, the Bob Baffert horse. I tend to respect Bob Baffert. You're throwing her out. I get it. You look at her. I'm not sure how good she is, but I like the turn back angle. And I was looking at turn back self wins. Bob's 7 for 24 with a $2 ROI. In greatest stakes, he's 4 for 14 with a $2.16 ROI. And this is Bob Baffert. His horses get
She's
bet.
not coming here for
so
sightseeing.
he's well, Bob will be here for the sales, but no, you're absolutely right about that. She belongs in here. She deserves to get a chance here. I was hoping these other horse, Tenma, would come here. I don't know
Same.
what the story with her. Quickly on her and anybody else you want to mention in 30 seconds.
I just think that Beauty Reigns is one that towards the outside in here, the sort of other Bill Mott, that trip last time, not ideal, still ran very well.
I agree with you. I think she's dangerous as well. The test is a great, great race and it deserved more time than we gave it. The Whitney deserves 2 hours of conversation, but let's get to work and let's show the Breeders' Cup Classic. And you're going to tell me why you think Fierceness is going to win today, and I'm going to tell you why I think Sierra Leone's going to win.
Fierceness is a horse that we have often been critical of if something does not go his way, where he'll throw in the towel and not show up with one of his better performances.
For good reason.
And this was a race where I thought he had more of a reason to quit and didn't necessarily than some of his prior efforts by far. The pace of this race was hot. He was up close to it. Sierra Leone finally got that pace to close into that he'd been lacking in several of his other starts where he still ran well despite the paces that were holding together more. I thought that this race from Fierceness, even the one where he does end up going and setting that track record over at Churchill with the Ali Sheba was one where yes, he showed that maybe he's going to start to put some consistency together. And then last time, it just seems as though he's one that has those old habits that can get in his way from time to time where he was asked to go out of the gate towards the inside. He didn't really appreciate that and didn't run one of his better efforts.
Poor
Draws
guy.
towards the outside
Poor guy.
today.
If everything just
I've
goes
never
way, he
picked
doesn't
him
win.
before. I've been extremely critical of him, just like the rest of us, for good reason, because that inconsistency is a problem at short prices. Today, I think that towards the outside and just the sort of knowledge they've gained of leave him alone and let him do his own thing, it's going to be tough.
Okay, that's fine. My problem with the big fast pace argument in the Breeders' Cup is, other than Sierra Leone, who picked up any ground in that race?
That's fair.
So as fast as the pace looked, the flow of the race kind of was in his favor, and he got his right trip. And I know he gets a good, comfortable outside post. They're going to be moving here. Mama's Gold's going, and if you think contrary thinking is in this race to rate back in fifth, you've been drinking too much. He's going. They're going to be moving up front. So
They
Fierceness
need
is
to be
going to
going.
have to be attending a pace that's going to be quick, I think. I'm not saying it's Breeders' Cup fast, but I don't know about that race being a real collapse. I think it just was a pace that favored Sierra Leone. And to me, Sierra Leone, listen, he's a frustrating horse, and I've lost money on him, and a lot of people have been burned by him. But the reality is he's always run well.
He always
has
shows up.
never run a bad race, whereas
Absolutely.
Fierceness, he's
We've
run some
seen a couple
clunkers.
of 'em.
And I think Sierra Leone ran extremely well last time out. Now, he got a break. I was saying this to Peter Brandt yesterday. He needs to get out cleanly because he broke a little slow. This is not a race to give them a half a length head start from the gate. Even as a closer, he needs to get that position. With Fierceness, I'm not sure that he's still the same horse he was because when you start taking the Ali Sheba apart, especially if, like me, you don't think he had an excuse in the Met Mile, and if you're going to make the excuse for wet track, then make it for White Abarrio as well,
Sure.
because I don't know. Maybe the Met Mile wasn't that great a race. Just a Touch lost at 1-9 in his next start.
Well, that ride was a little overconfident.
I'm sorry. He lost at 1-9 in his next start.
did.
I don't want to hear it was an overconfident ride. And the Ali Sheba Locke didn't show up, and
No, he
Locke can't
didn't.
run anymore. And so I'm kind of wondering if it just wasn't that good
That's
a
a
race.
fair question
So
to ask.
I'm kind of wondering if he's necessarily as good as he was last year, and I think Sierra Leone is. So I'm going to take him. Let's talk about others. Let's talk about White Abarrio winning the Pegasus, or the Don, which I like to call it, because I just want to remember the Don family. I understand he's a tough horse to trust, but I got to tell you something. If he decides to run his good race, this guy can win this race.
If the White Abarrio of 2023 and even a
about
couple
this one?
times since then comes and runs his race in here, I think that the storyline is amazing with him trying to become a repeat winner of this race and to the two Breeders' Cup Classic winners facing
amazing,
off
right?
against each other. It's
Never happened, right?
Loaded to have
Yeah.
a field like this where you have so many accolades and so many Grade 1 winners and so much talent within one field, but I've yet to see him do it for Saffie Joseph Jr. outside of Gulfstream in the same
That's
type
fair.
of way.
That's very fair.
Not necessarily
No, that's very
indicative
fair.
of the fact that
That's
he's
fair.
going to run a race that isn't a winning one today. But that's my only concern at what's going to be one of the main choices in here.
Let's talk about two other horses in here. Let's talk about Highland Falls, who did win the Jockey Club here last year. There's no doubt he's got to run the best race he's ever run. This was an extremely good effort, forcing the pace of Arthur's Ride, putting him away, and holding off everybody else impressively. I don't think he's totally impossible to get a piece of this race. This guy, on his good day, is good enough to throw his hat in the ring.
I think that he's sort of a wise guy pick for some that I noticed go in his direction. And look, he has a couple of races that would make him a competitor in here where he's going to be one that doesn't need to be right a part of that pace, that should be honest in here and does draw well in this spot. I just don't know how good he really is in comparison to some of the company that he's going to be
More than fair.
meeting in this spot, because overall, looking at what he's done against horses quite like this, he hasn't shown up with some of his better races.
No, that's all perfectly fair. I just think somewhere in there's a horse that could be
There's ability,
competitive.
of course.
And I got to tell you, I'm rooting for Post Time to run well in
Me
here.
too. He's
You've
such
got
a
him
cool
second.
horse.
I don't know, but don't take his figures that much at heart. This horse has been running very, very good races, and in a race that's going to feature probably some pace, he's going to put in a run. Now, I don't know if that run's going to be good enough, but I think he's one of the coolest horses racing, and I'm thrilled he's in here, and I'd love to see him at least get a piece of it.
Well, do you really want to leave him out of the trifecta? I mean, a horse that's going to be
It's amazing.
one of the bigger prices towards the
Never
outside.
failed to hit the board in 18 starts as a deep closer.
And
it's
as
pretty amazing.
The kind of company that he's faced as well, where he was on that upward trajectory of class, rising in class, and still showing up with the kind of performances that put him right in the mix. I'm glad he's in here. I can't take him on top, but I'm excited to see what we got from him today.
I agree. I think he's such a cool horse, and I think he's going to run well. Whether not well enough is good enough. We'll see. An unbelievably great running of the Whitney and so many good races. Race number 12, we'll take a look at Leslie's Humor, the horse I picked on top, and I'm going to go back in the time machine and show this horse winning at Monmouth. She got scratched in the meet. I guess she spiked a fever, I think, when she went over the detention barn or the receiving barn or whatever. I remember talking to Chad, coming over from the stall, and nothing serious, obviously. She's coming back. I've always thought she was good. I'm going to take her on top in a race that I think is just wide open.
There's so much going on in here, and I don't blame you. I think that she ran well in that spot, and then looking at her coming in off a layoff, I'm not concerned with Chad Brown coming in off of some time away. Clearly, it's not been a problem for most of his horses, but I thought just with the outside draw and with so much going on in here, she was going to be one of the ones that took some of the wagering attention, but so is the horse that I ended up picking on top in here with Tales of the Heart, who does draw well and needs to get a little bit more position in some of her
I like
races.
her drawing the rail. I think the rail puts her a little more in the race in here, and she doesn't have to chase outside. And I agree. I think she's going to run very well in here. The reason I left Salvadorena out of the race, not that she can't win, she never wins. And there were so many other horses I was interested, like the first time Wesley Ward throwing in, gets that horse from that terrible trainer Brad Cox. And I even think she's got Will, who I have second, you have third in here. I mean, I don't know if she's a sprinter and they're using it as a prep, but she's pretty good, and I mean, she shows routine improvement from 2 to 3. She might be faster than these horses, Sarah.
I agree, and I think that she was one of the ones that didn't have a world of trouble in that Miss Grillo like many did, but at the same time, running against Mayday Ready in just her second start, winning first time out like she did. Does she want to cut back? I don't know, but maybe this is the right kind of spot to find out for a horse that you're just coming in off the layup. Let's see what you have in a spot that, while it looks competitive, there's no absolute standout by any means.
And I'm very excited that you put Master of the Season. Master of the Season, by the way,
is one of
Master
our favorite horses.
And I'm seeing some owners of Deterministic making their way in for a full day of racing. They're not just here for the big race.
Exciting.
I think this is a really fun race. I mean, the 12 and 13 are going to get a little lost in the shuffle and conversation because they come up to the big races, but these are really fun races, and we close it out in the maiden race, and I didn't know if you'd pick your horse Magnum's Microburst, so I showed the tough beat you took first time on the turf at 25 to 1. And I'll tell you one thing about her. She actually ran well last time. She was never near the rail in that race, and I think she's had her chances. I like others, but she's not impossible.
My time for this horse was this race, where you have a horse who's coming in that's an overwhelming favorite, who doesn't necessarily come in with the accolades of deserving such, except for the connections. This horse I thought was going to be forwardly placed and really appreciate the turf. She just gets nailed at the wire at a huge price in here. She's run well since then. I just could not take on top because I'm not getting that price again.
I don't love the horses. I don't love the So Darn Pretty race. I think Peak Hype's the one you want out of there, but I don't disagree with you. Talk about my third choice and your top choice for Al Stall. Too Late Baby Doll.
Yeah, it seems like this one needs to get a little bit quicker on figures, but I just thought that the first race over here, just really a little bit keen and not comfortable within the running of that race, and then last time out just didn't really have the
Moved too soon, kind
of trips, and like had a weird steady even while being up close, and then just didn't have much of a kick in that spot. And I thought that now, coming in third off of some time where she was overseas in Ireland, I think that maybe she could run a little bit better here.
I'm with you. I agree. I think she's a big player. I took Selfless. I'll tell you that Phil Antonacci train. I thought this horse ran well in the debut. I thought ran well 2 back with a wide trip in there. I think a mile and 3/8 was too far. And I'm going to take Selfless in this race. A very, very competitive race to close out a great card. Sarah, great job as always. Thank you so much for watching. Today is one of those days, man. I mean, everything fell into line. The weather, the racing. It's going to be an amazing day here in Saratoga. Head over to NYRA Bets. Use the promo code SPOT200. We'll match the $200 of your initial deposit. After that, Travers Bankroll Builder. Opt-in and/or Whitney and/or 4-Star Dave. 2 opportunities to get $20 towards your Travers Bankroll Builder. We've got a cross-country pick 5, 2 at Monmouth, 3 stakes here, all grade 1s, starting a little bit before 3:50 or just after 3:45. We have the show. 1 to 2, 12 to 2 on FS1, 2 to 3 on FS2, Fox from 3 to 6, 6 to 7 on FS2. All 13 races will be covered. Sarah, thank you again. Thank you again. And a pre-day thanks to Frank Miramati, who's got his hands full on today's Whitney card. He'll be up in just a couple of moments with a reprise of the Scratches and Changes. Enjoy one of those days here in Saratoga.
You bet with Naira Bets. Bet any track, anywhere, anytime. Download the Naira Bets app to play today and get a $200 deposit bonus. Watch live horse racing. Get expert picks. Boost your bankroll with weekly promotions and hone your handicapping skills with exclusive tips and tutorials. Download the Naira Bets app now. Sign up now to claim your $200 deposit match bonus. You bet with Naira Bets.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we direct your attention to the flagpole in the infield, as well as the winner's circle. We ask that you please rise and remove your caps. It's time for the national anthem.